Hi there, folks. Rage Cage here. Yes, very strange that there is speaking at the beginning of VGMporium, but, just want, of course, to let you know that this episode is about my time at MAGWest, and mainly to let you know that what you're about to hear is a recording I did. I recorded the video of this, and I just extracted the audio of Super Soul Bros playing a nearly 9-minute long jam of Carnival Stage for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I did the best I could with mixing it, so it's going to sound a little tinny, a little muddy here and there, but please enjoy.
Thank you so much, MAGWest. We're going to get the heck off the stage. Give yourself a hand. We'll be at the merch table. We'd love to meet y'all. Enjoy your MAGWest.
Hi again. Allow me to properly welcome you into VGMporium, video game music and more. I'm your host / proprietor of this establishment, Rage Cage, and yes, this is about my time at MAGWest 2023. So I'm going to be up front here. I did not get any interviews of any kind the entire weekend. Yeah, there was just so much going on. I was kind of overwhelmed, and just there were plenty of good opportunities to do it. Don't get me wrong. Like whenever I would think about it, I would kind of start getting myself to go up to somebody, and then I just chickened out. And yeah, so this is going to be the only MAGWest episode you'll be getting from me until next year. Yeah, this episode's going to be a little haphazard, kind of rushed, because I'm actually doing this a couple days before I'm set to release it. Just been busy with this whole week after coming back from MAGWest, and the weekend and everything is just, yeah, so it's going to be kind of interesting. So what I'm going to be playing for you today is a mix of, as you could tell, live music that I have recorded or, gotten a recording from elsewhere, or music from folks that I had actually gotten to meet throughout MAGWest. And my boy howdy, I tell you, just the amount of music I heard, the amount of just the number of really cool people I got to meet is just, I'm still kind of reeling, still processing, and yeah, and just so much cool stuff. So just to start, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, what you're hearing right now is Carnival Stage from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, covered by Super Soul Bros. And, I lucked out in catching this song. This is their last song of their set. I was just at a panel. I want to say it was Pixelated Audio's panel. And yeah, just caught this, and glad I did, because it was really impressive just to see them take this, relatively short song, and turn it into this, nearly 9-minute long jam. But of course, a lot of that time is just these crazy solos. And yeah, this was, I think the lead of this band is Robbie Benson, who just props to him for being able to put this all together and just keep all these parts going. And we'll be getting back to him later, for this was definitely not my last encounter with Mr. Benson here, though I was not expecting it my second time to be in the way it was. This, of course, was not the first thing I did at MAGWest. This is later on in Friday night. Nope, one of the first things I did at MAGWest, as anyone naturally would do after doing a 3-hour drive from the foothills to the Bay Area, is go check out the consoles and arcade area, which were still setting up, and which was still getting set up. The console area was pretty much just ready to go, all these CRTs and consoles set up. So check that out a little bit. Played a little bit of Project Justice, a little bit of Bust-A-Move 4, a little bit of Last Blade 2. Hey, why not? And then the arcade area was mostly set up a lot of rhythm games. Too many rhythm games. I mean, I wish there was maybe a little more variety with the arcade games there, but I understand, music and gaming what better combination than rhythm games? But one of the more interesting games they had set up was the Shinkansen simulator, where you actually were the conductor, like, hitting all the switches, accelerating, going to like all the different stops and stuff. I failed horribly. And then, of course, after a few hours, the opening ceremony happened, and, I imagine most of the people that have gone to MAGfest or MAGWest before know what that's all about, just telling you what to expect, what's going on, just all the, enjoy ourselves. But we were explicitly told not to go to the GWOBS panel. If we valued our sanity, don't go to the GWOBS panel. Speaking of panels, I did go to a lot of those, and one of the first ones I went to was one about, let's see, I have the schedule right here, Making Musical Sound-alikes, hosted by Akil Abdul. Goes by Casadini musically, and this is where our next song is coming from. So the tune I'm going to play for you is something that I just called June 30th tune, because he did a whole series of songs, one a day throughout the month of June, using nothing but a bass, iwi, omnichord, and then FamiTracker for percussion. And that was June 30th tune by Akil Abdul, aka Casadini. And yes, I met him at the panel that he was hosting called Making Musical Sound-alikes, where he basically showed us how to, take parts of different songs that we liked and basically steal from them. Pilfering a bass line, thieving melodic lines here and there, and then kind of, slowly but surely transforming it into something else to where it kind of sounds like the thing that you're kind of borrowing from, but not. And he presented it in a very fun way. So Akil was one of the people that I actually ended up spending the most time with at MAGWest. And we both connected over the fact, that we, of course, both made chiptune, and we were showing each other, like, the stuff that we had made, and we're kind of, learning each other things, and, just kind of went from there. We'd bump into each other throughout the days, and just end up kind of going to different panels with each other, and, check out different musics, and, yeah, it was just really, really cool to have that experience of, like, finding a MAGWest buddy. And he actually recorded my whole set at ChipSpace. That was the one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, was that I actually did a set at the ChipSpace hosted by 8-Bit SF, where I shared a lot of my chiptune and just other people. It was like a chiptune open mic. It was really cool. And Akil recorded the whole set for me. And yeah, I'm really thankful for you for that. And I did the same for him. And his set was really cool. Like, it was a combination of using the FamiTracker and the N163 and the omnichord for just like live improvisation. It was really cool. So yeah, and, again, thank you, Akil, for like recording that, and really cool to have like gotten to hang out with you, and hope to try to keep in touch online, and hopefully see you next year. So now, of course, my visit to MAGWest wasn't all just panels, though a lot of those were really cool, such as one about modding retro consoles for modern day gaming. But there was, of course, the music side of things, with the jam space and main stage. Main stage was still getting set up by, of course, Gene Dre Band, who was the head of running sound and such for MAGWest, And, I got to actually see him a few times while he was in the middle of rushing back and forth, getting things set up. And, yeah, that was really cool. And, yeah, of course, waiting for main stage to open up. And who opens up main stage? But Ian Cowell and his band of exceptional goblins, which is where our next song is coming from. And this one is another live recording. It's not one that I got, but somebody else did that they uploaded to YouTube. And this is Hot Spaghetti from Pizza Tower, covered by Ian Cowell and his band of exceptional goblins. And that was Hot Spaghetti from Pizza Tower, as covered by Ian Cowell and his band of exceptional goblins. And the video where this audio came from was recorded and uploaded by Dana Welsh. But I do believe that this arrangement was done for the project Byscore, which is comprises of Ian Cowell and Kerry Wood. And, I actually bumped into them and got to talk them to a little bit shortly after I got there. And, they were just getting in, kind of getting ready to go do a sound test. Now, this is the first time I had met Kerry, who was the bass goblin for this exceptional band, though this is not the first time I had an encounter with Ian. No, that was October of last year at the Button Masher Ian Cowell and E.N. Cowell show. I got to see him play. Didn't actually get to meet him proper because he was just tucked away and busy getting, doing all the music stuff. I did meet him at the show in February at DNA Lounge, and we got to talking, and just kind of chatting and kind of connecting online here and there. So it was really cool to kind of see them and then actually get to see him play again. And, he really knows how to put on a show. He just has this ridiculous energy. It's just kind of fun to watch him and his band play. And, of course, just has these videos playing in the background that he did during, all the lockdowns and stuff. And they're just over the top ridiculous. I think this one just has him like in the chef costume making spaghetti and meatballs and just getting it all over himself and cutting pizzas and running around and just, yeah. This is a silly boy. I like this silly boy. And if you'd like to see this silly boy, go to YouTube, look up Neon Cowl, and yeah, all his videos are just ridiculous. Yeah, back to the performance. It was really fun to watch his and Carrie's energy together. Just like you could tell that they were just bouncing off each other in just the best ways. And I would see them, both of them, and as well as their other bandmates, just all over the place. Like, either at other panels, like either hosting them or attending them. And actually, one of the panels they did host was genre blending in VGM, which is about blending, of course, genres for your arrangements. But this happened Saturday. We're still in Friday. So jumping too far ahead. So there was one thing I was really looking forward to, which was the pixelated audio panel. So I went to that, and I actually got to get to see and meet Gene again. Talk to him a little bit, and finally meet Brian, who is the other host of Pixelated Audio. And if anybody's been listening for a while, they know that PA was my first VGM podcast. So they're also kind of like one of the main inspirations to how I do my show, as far as like my deep dives and stuff. So now the panel they were hosting was not an ordinary panel, because they had the guest, which was George the Fat Man Sanger, and you knew he was in the room because he was wearing just this crazy suit. It was like this full-on suit, had sequins or rhinestones on it, rattlesnakes, big old cowboy hat, and he was just, he exuded just like this energy that kind of like, pulled you towards him, and man, he's just an amazing fellow. And actually, this is where our next song is coming from, and that is Ghost of Bo from the Seventh Guest, and this is coming specifically from Seventh Guest Comeback, which is the kind of like technical remaster and like release of all the songs from that soundtrack. And this is by George the Fat Man Sanger and Team Fat. And that was Ghost of Bo from Seventh Guest, composed by George the Fat Man Sanger and Team Fat. And this version is coming from the OST re-release called Seventh Guest Come Back from 2021. And yes, I got to witness this ridiculously wonderful legend of a man at the pixelated audio panel, which I am looking forward to when they are finished with it and release it. And yeah, without this man, the Western video game music community would not be as it is right now, quite possibly. I'm not even going to attempt to explain why. I'm going to leave that to when, Gene and Brian, are finished editing and release that episode. So yes, George Sanger was quite the delight, and I would be seeing him around all over the place throughout the, rest of MAGWest after this. And then, of course, it was just a pleasure to get to see Gene and Brian doing their thing in person this time, instead of just having, hearing them. I actually got to see them doing their thing, and that was pretty cool. So after the panel, I got to talk again to Gene a little bit. I got to talk to Brian, even George, and a few other peoples that I kind of met there. Can't quite remember who it was at this point. I hadn't really eaten anything since breakfast, and I was kind of getting to that point where I wasn't hungry anymore. I was hungry, but I couldn't feel it. It was like this kind of weird Zen state of tired and hungry. I don't know. But yeah, this is after this point, I went to go check out the Super Soul Bros. You know, I got to catch their last song, luckily. And then eventually found my way towards this bar/restaurant that was in the hotel, and there was Brian, and he called me over. Ended up sitting down and chatting with him and his brother, who was there, and Chase Bethia, who's a pretty accomplished indie composer, and we'll be getting to him later. So yeah, I got to sit down, chat with Brian for a bit, like getting to nerd about like just games, music, talking about Japan and our trips there, and he pulled out this thing called the Mio Mini Plus, which is a little handheld, like emulation handheld, and he convinced me. I ended up getting one just a couple days ago, and it should be getting here sometime in early August. So yeah, after chatting with these fellas, I went to, I think it was MAGhell. At this point, I was starting to get a little fuzzy, kind of, again, hadn't eaten much, was definitely feeling the need for sleep, but I wanted to keep going. So this was just ridiculous times, just a lot of, it was just basically like just a living shit post. Yeah, that's basically what it was. Speaking of shit posts, Wario Speedwagon. This is one I was kind of finding out throughout my day, and Gene told me about it because he is actually the one that put this thing together, and he actually played bass in one of the last songs I played, which is I'm going to be playing next here. This is Ending from Possessioner, as performed by Wario Speedwagon.
over there than up here, but that was fun anyway. Thank you, everybody, and don't look this one up at work.
And that was Ending from Possessioner, as performed by Wario Speedwagon. And I guess this is something that was started by Gene at last year's MAGWest. And yeah, they just do all these different covers. What they did this year was like things like Spin Dizzy, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Persona, Paradise Killer, and of course Possessioner, which is a PC 98 game. And each song featured different artists. Many of them were the Goblins from Ian's band, as well as Gene's wife, who did vocals on a couple of the songs as well. And then Gene actually played bass on this song, and this is the only song that he played it in. So as you probably heard him mention halfway through the song, it was about 1:30 in the morning. So, after this was all over, I decided to go to my hotel room and pass out. Next morning, woke up, decided to go to the grocery outlet that was there about 10 minutes away. 10 minutes drive. Happy day. And, good old grocery outlet. You can never fail. If you don't know what grocery outlet is, I'm sorry. Maybe the closest thing you might have if you're out in the east is Aldi's. But yes, let's see. I got me sourdough rice crackers and hummus and a couple other things. This one was a little bare compared to other grocery outlets as far as selections on cool stuff. So, but that's what I got. I went to Whole Foods as well to get some foods. But anyway, get back to Hilton, have my eatings, and then I'm sitting at a table in front of out in like one of the main halls, and Akil comes by, looking really refreshed because he was pretty tired, just doing his panel. He had had this huge flight with barely any sleep. So yeah, we got to chatting, and there was this panel that we were both interested in, and we were gonna meet each other there again. So in between that time, I decided to finally go check out the Indie Games Hall, and there were quite a few cool ones. The ones I got to play was one called Cobalt Tactics, which is basically a tactics game but based around like D&D style, dice roll stuff. One called Snackerfice, which is basically Pokemon, but you get ingredients and summon up little creatures to battle other food creatures. But the coolest one there was actually this Sega Genesis homebrew game that was being actively worked on while you got to play it. It was a first-person shooter, and it was like really cool, very impressive what they were able to do. And I was playing it, and then there was some textures that were wrong, so they took were working on the computer, made sure the textures were right, and then reset the cartridge, and then got to playing it again, and there it was, all fixed. So it was really cool to see them actually actively working on it as you were playing it. After this, I made my way to that panel I mentioned earlier, and what was it about? The unfortunate history of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it was a ridiculously fun time. So after that, went to the Composers Roundtable, which was going on at Variety Stage, and that was really cool. It was 13 people, I think, up at that table. Way too many people for that table, but just all of them, just amazing. And let's see, some of the folks that were up there, we got Graham Norgate, Ross Trengedza, George Sanger, of course, and Chase Bethia, who I mentioned earlier. And then there were some arrangers up there as well, such as Ian Cowell, Nicole Boaz of 7th Street Big Band, Mason Lieberman, and Ben Fassini, who was actually hosting the roundtable. And it was just really neat to hear them all just share their stories, their experiences, just the games they've worked on, the things they've arranged. And so our next song is actually coming from this, from Chase Bethia, who I did, like I said, mentioned meet on Friday. But before I was chatting with him with Brian, I actually think I bumped into him at Akil's panel, as well as the one about the retro console modding. So the song I'm going to play for you is called Fortune Favors the Brave Master from the game Quest Like Pocket. And that was Fortune Favors the Brave Master from Quest Like Pocket, composed by Chase Bethia. And Chase is a pretty interesting guy to meet and talk to. Like I said, he's pretty well established in the indie game music composition scene. And he actually most recently composed the music for the trailer for the Gex Trilogy remaster that's going to be coming out at some point. Yeah, he was just another one of those I would keep bumping into throughout MAGWest, and actually would hang out with him for a good bit at the end of MAGWest, or like towards the end. And really cool thing is that he actually heard of VGMporium through the Masters of VGM thing, because I gave him my card, and then he said that looks familiar, and then he had this whole spreadsheet of different podcasts that that were part of the Masters of VGM this year, and he had mine highlighted, and he said the ones that are highlighted are ones that he would like to guest on. So eventually, at some point, he will be on VGMporium, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I have a few other people I'm going to be recording with, so this will give you some time to figure out what you want to talk about and get some tracks selected. So now, immediately after the Composers Roundtable, there was one other thing I was really looking forward to, which was the Inflores Jam, which is hosted by Inflores Records, which is a digital fusion net label, and all the music released through this label is just amazing. And so Inflores Jam was made up of people that were, I think, involved in Inflores Records, as well as other bands that were performing there at MAGWest, headed by Miles Morkery, who is the one who started Inflores Records, and just a really great musician. And so yeah, Inflores Jam was just basically him and these few other people. They had just practiced these songs beforehand, like they arranged, some of the folks that were playing there, music of other people that released through Inflores Records. And what I have for you here is a recording of one of these songs they did. This is a arrangement improv jam of the song Forest Portals by Mandra Sigma, who is also doing the sound for this set.
Andrew is such a skilled composer, and it was very interesting putting that into jam form. So hopefully we did a little bit of justice.
And that was Forced Portals, composed by Mandra Sigma, as performed by Infloresce Jam. So if you haven't heard of Infloresce Records, I highly recommend you go check it out because, like I said, there's just so many amazing releases through them. And then Mandra Sigma, I've kind of had encounters with online, on like, here and there, either like Instagram and Twitter, and so it was really cool to get to meet him in person. I didn't really get to talk to him too much because, again, he was doing the sound for that set and was getting ready for the next performance that was happening in that jam space. So yeah, he was just busy. Yeah, so after this, kind of did some wandering around, checked out Robbie Benson and Friends at the poolside with George Sanger playing some slide guitar. That was some really cool thing to see. And then after this, went to go see that genre blending and VGM panel I mentioned earlier that Ian and Carrie were part of. And then after that was Akil's next panel, which was a dialogue for dynamic video game music, which was him just showing how to create dynamic music using a program called Fmod. It was pretty cool to see just kind of like the behind the scene things of how some dynamic music works. I don't, probably not going to be using it myself anytime in the future, but again, interesting nonetheless. So now I'll mention there was one thing, one of the things I was really excited for at MAGWest was the chip space, which was going to be hosted by 8-Bit SF later in the evening. So, between after Akil's panel and that time, I did some wandering around, hanging out with him, checking out the game room, doing some arcade stuff. And then there was a electronic musicians meetup, which was originally going to happen in Jam Space, but then happened at Variety Stage. And it was just kind of basically just a bunch of people that produce electronic music just getting together and sharing their music with each other, which was pretty cool. And I kind of got to talk to a few folks and share what I did. I actually saw Ian Cowell, or Evan, there as well. I didn't get to catch his show because it was like I said, the schedule got a little wonky, and by the time he went on, I was at something else or had gone to bed. I can't remember, but it was cool. I got to see him again, talk to him, as well as a few other people sharing our music. And then, of course, Chip Space happened. And yes, I was really excited for this because, one, I love me some chiptune, especially original stuff. And then, of course, a few weeks earlier, I had sent a submission in to actually do a set at this chip space, which the day before I found out I'm going to be doing it. And I also come to find out that Akil had put a submission in as well the day before and got in as well. So yeah, chiptune buddies. So for the first act for this chip space was Petriform, who I'd actually recognized the name from a few different Discord servers. And so I'm going to be playing for you from them one of their songs called Delete, Delete, Delete. and that was Delete, Delete, Delete by Petriform. And this is from their 2018 album, Nothing Is For Sure. And as you can probably tell, this is straight from the album and not a live recording. So this is one of the songs they did during their set, and so everything was playing off a FamiTracker except for the vocals, of course, which they were singing live on the, right there through a vocoder. And this is pretty much their set, just like, playing off a FamiTracker and singing through the vocoder. And it's like this crazy kind of blend of like chiptune and pop punk. And yeah, it was really cool. So after they had done their set, next up was TVMA, which was another kind of like chiptune / electronic music performance. And she had played a flute and one of those weird cat piano things. Then after that was Mode 7 with his like kind of nerdcore rap. Like, was playing like actual video game music with a beat over it and then rapping over it. And then there was another performer, I don't remember his name, I feel really bad about it, but again, more chiptune with a guitar playing, playing guitar over it. Then was me. I did my set and I went surprisingly well. I did some of my beatboxing for the first time on stage after, 5 years. And it was the first time I actually got to play my music in front of people that actually got it, and appreciated chiptune. And then after me was Akil, who again was playing things off FamiTracker using the N163 and a omnichord for just improvising over it, and that was really neat. And then Andy Goth at the end, he was just playing songs that he had arranged for a friend off of Game Boy, and those were some really interesting compositions, like not your usual 4 to the floor Game Boy DMG stuff. These were like just really like well composed, interesting, just like really interesting sounds, use of the wave channel as well. And then after everything was done, I think I got to talk to, I think it was Newcon, who's one of the organizers for 8-Bit SF, and yeah, he said really liked my set, and that to kind of keep in touch about things that were going to be going on. So there may be some trips to SF sometime in the future. And then immediately after that, got to talking with Akil, and then we got to talking to Mode 7, and we're just there talking just like what everything that was going on, and just kind of it was really cool. And then after this, we Akil and I were walking towards towards the panels area, or restaurant area, and there we encountered Andy Goth, and I got to talking to him, and just it was kind of there that finally hit me, that I was finally coming to face with all these people that have just been part of like this community for like years, 10 years, maybe almost 20 years now, and kind of my place was just been kind of like behind the scenes, kind of lurking about, checking these things out from afar, and then just finally getting to like encounter it all like in person has just been it's overwhelming still. So after talking to him, I went to the panel, which was Dwelling of Duels meetup, which was Oops All Shit Posts, which, as you can imagine, it was just remixes and arrangements that were all just bad, really bad on purpose. Some real overlooked remix quality stuff here. And so shortly after this, that finally the time came. The GWOBS panel. So as I mentioned, we were explicitly told not to go to this panel, which I went to it. And as I mentioned, this is not I would be meeting Robbie Benson in a totally different context. Well, I found out through this that he is GWOBS. I would imagine a few MAG veterans are familiar with this. I guess I'm not sure how long this has been going on, but oh boy, I am not the same. I nearly 2.5 hours after it started, I watched a grown man chug a can of chili and enjoy it. I won some Fruit Brute and a robe. George Singer was there. He was a beautiful, just like pillar of sanity within all this insanity, even though himself was pretty insane. There was chanting of cheese, the handing out of expired ranch dressing, the shouting of Brute every time Fruit Brute was given out as a raffle or bingo prize. Truth be told, I don't know how I've lived without this in my life for these last few years. I am definitely going to be going next year, as much as the best Ben implores us not to. And so, yes, this thing started at 12, ended at 2:30. So you can imagine at this point, I was kind of out of it. Again, haven't really eaten much. And so I kind of stumbled off towards the elevators to go to my room. And who else was in the elevator but George Singer? So it was kind of a cool little coincidence there. So, got to say goodnight to him, and then went to my room, and once more promptly passed out. And so this brings us to Sunday, which not much going on here. Just still more of the same, like checking out the games room, checking out some of the music. One of the major panels I was wanting to check out was called Japanese Video Game Music Demystified, a guide to analyzing and composing like the masters. And this was hosted by someone by the name of Eric Yee. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was he presented all these different examples of all these different things that these composers were doing, and it was very, very heavy on the music theory side of things. And so I was able to kind of keep up, but still a little lost. He did share an example of a song that he created using all these different techniques that were done by these different composers. So what I'm going to share with you is Down Groove from the game Cat Strats, composed by Eric Yee. And that was Down Groove from Cat Strats, composed by Eric Yee. And this is actually one of the examples he used towards the end of his panel. And he actually had a breakdown of all the different composition techniques and chord structures and such that he borrowed from other composers to make this song. One of those, which I guessed was Masashi Hamauzu when listening to it, and then was confirmed when he showed, he was part of that breakdown. And so, yeah, I learned a lot from this. Again, a lot of music theory stuff, so I was kind of out of my depth. But Eric, he made it pretty approachable because he is a teacher of music. He does courses about, video game music composition. He's a pretty good, dang good teacher for being able to get someone like me to understand, all that theory talk. And actually, he was in the middle of doing a course, and then he took a break to come and do this panel and check out MAGWest, and then he was immediately going to go back to continuing on, to do a lesson. Crazy, man. So after the panel was over, some way or another, we all ended up chatting. So it was Akil, Chase, Eric, I think his name was Anthony, somebody else, I can't remember their name, I'm sorry, and myself, and we were all just, talking and sharing, what we did and, sharing our cards back and forth. And this is actually where Chase figured out that, VGMporium, that was me, and, showed me that whole spreadsheet thing. And then, they ended up setting up a Discord server called Video Game Tropes, which is basically just, them sharing just all these different, musical tropes that they find in video games. So I think one thing was, the Mario Kart lick, and then different chord structures and such. And, I definitely felt a little out of place because all these guys had, had this, intimate knowledge of, musical just composition and theory and all. And, all of them actually pretty well accomplished video game music composers. I mean, Chase, Akil, and Eric, and, Eric being a teacher and all. And, but still, that common connection of, the love of video game music was there, and that, that's all that mattered. And that is the core of MAG, all the iterations. Just people who have love for video games and music coming together just to nerd out with each other. And it doesn't matter if you're somebody who just loves listening to video game music or somebody who's been composing it for 40 years. They all just get together to share this love. And I do have some friends that I can get together with and talk about video game music in depth, but just to be actually in a place where there was hundreds. I think the final count was 1,300 people at this one event. Just to be surrounded by this many people that are, have the same love and have been involved with it, longer and deeper than I have been, is just, like I said, just still processing it, but it was amazing. So with that, I'm definitely going to be making out to next year's MAGWest, and hopefully, let myself a little bit more out of my shell and engage more with people. And who knows? Maybe sometime in the future, hopefully, after 20 plus years of wanting to go, I'll be making out to a MAGfest. One can only hope. So I hope you enjoyed this haphazard episode about my MAGWest adventure. I really should have recorded this right after getting back, when it was still fresh, but, time and procrastination and all that fun stuff. Speaking of fun stuff, I'm going to be linking everybody's, music that I have, shared today in the show notes, and I would highly recommend you go check it out and then go find them online. I'll probably be having those links as well. And so with that, I'd like to thank you for coming into VGMporium, and if this is your first time and you've made it this far, welcome. And you can, of course, find VGMporium on all the different podcatchers such as Spotify, Google, Apple, Amazon, Audible, as well as the main website, which is VGMporium.wordpress.com. And there you can find, of course, all the episodes, and I'm working on trying to update the site to make it a little easier to navigate and find, certain episodes, can I group them together and stuff. And then, of course, you can find VGMporium on Twitter or whatever ridiculous thing old Pappy Musk decides to call it next, and Instagram as well. And then if you'd like to get in contact with me, there is the email, VGMporium@gmail.com, where you can, send in suggestions, feedback, or special orders, which are basically song requests. And when I get enough of those, I'll do their own dedicated episode. And one last thing, you thought I was done. There's also a Discord if you're interested in that. And then I've been your host, Rage Cage, and you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, as well as on SoundCloud, where I post all of my original music. Though I have done some VGM for, little indie video games as well. And actually, St. John of Nerd Noise Radio actually just did a Channel F focusing on some of that music I done composed for some little tiny video games. So definitely go check that out. So now, what's coming up next week? Let's see. It's the day before I release this episode that I'm recording this right now, and I still don't know, so it's going to be a surprise for all of us. The one thing to look forward to sometime in the next few weeks is I recorded an episode with Bedroth, formerly a VGM Very Good Music podcast, and currently a BG Mania. And yeah, it was a really fun time, and I'm definitely looking forward to when I have it ready to share with you because you're all going to really like it. So thank you again for coming into VGMporium, video game music, and more.
Thank you.